Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by once again. As many of you probably have already heard, we're in sort of a modified lockdown, quarantine, whatever you want to call it, situation through the next 2 weeks, through January 4th, over the holidays, the Christmas holiday, of course, and the New Year's holiday. It's different in different days and so forth. It's a little complex to describe, and it's not worth the time. But it does restrict movement a great deal. It's not going to be a good time to be traveling around the country, and it's just the way that it is. The increase in number of cases has been significant, and our relaxation over the last month or two in terms of restrictions has that plus Mother's Day, which is a very major holiday here, which is in early December. I think the combination of all of this has just been enough to get things rolling, and we can afford a big spike at the end of the month. Our beds are filling up, and although new beds are being opened up and facilities prepared, we need more staff, and it's just that sort of situation. So everybody does, and it makes it difficult, very, very challenging. So the greatest effort was made to keep as much open as much as possible during this period, including the airport. But restricting it, and sometimes quite severely on the holidays themselves, in order to try to avoid any big major problems. And I sincerely hope that the whole thing works, because it is disturbing to see it moves so rapidly in the UK, and if it starts to take off elsewhere, it's just going to be devastating. We'll have to hope not. In fact, I'm even getting more and more concerned about what's called long-term COVID. It's not being discussed a lot. It's been out there for some time, but I don't think people even like to talk about it. But it's a reality for younger adults. And those of you in Britain, you may be familiar with Newcastle United's situation. It's a football team, a soccer football in Britain, and Steve Bruce, who's the boss, the head man there, described recently just what's going on. And so here, these young guys, they're 20s, early 30s, I assume, very, very fit. They're professional athletes, and they're young and fit and professional athletes. What a combination! And they have been hit by it, and severely so. And I say, like I tell people, I'm 75. I get it. I probably will either recover or die. In their case, at their age group, they get it, but they don't die, but they don't recover completely either, and it can go on for weeks and even months. So he has several players that have gone through this. A couple of them are now back and are playing again, but they're still short of people. He has two. He said he's very, very concerned about their long-term prognosis, and the third one apparently is in not very good shape either. That's such a tragedy, I don't even like to think about this sort of stuff. But there we go. So we need to stop it, and we will, one way or another. It has to, somehow. And we need to get the vaccines here, of course. Now, we're ahead of the game for many countries of our size and of our neighborhoods and so on, in that we had funds and we went out and bought, paid for them. We did not wait for charity or for some special deal put together for poor nations or whatever. And this has allowed us to be up front in the line. By the same token, we're a very small country, and it's the big countries that are going to muscle in and take the bulk of it, because they're paying lots of money, and they've often put up the money to find the solutions. I mean, who can blame them for wanting it? I mean, it's not a great shock, but it just means we have to wait a bit longer. Not as long as some, perhaps, but longer than we'd like to. I think we're starting it with Pfizer. Yes, we are. And that shipment, the first shipment of that, could be as early as mid-January, but it looks more like February, maybe early to mid-February. If we're fortunate, we'll be able to get that in and get that rolling. We have several others that are following up on that. If it all arrives, we're in fine shape. But we've got to get them in. The first one's in, and get the health personnel covered as quickly as we possibly can. And then there will be the police force, because they have to keep order or whatever during the entire affair. Which in many instances is just getting people to the hospital. And then, of course, there are those who are really elderly and who are most at risk in this. So We'll see how everything works out. But in the meantime, we've got to keep it as much subdued as much as we possibly can. So nobody likes it at all, but it's what we need to do. So it's underway right now. It's very quiet here in the city, as it's meant to be. So that's where we stand with that. There's nothing that is dramatically changed in any other respect. We've had a major increase in the number of arrivals at the airport. We've had an increase in business and so on. We're still, of course, not producing like we did a year ago, but we definitely took a jump up in the last couple of months with the relaxation of some of the regulations. That's going to be hurt a little this month because of this effort now. But we have life here, and we expect to have more of it in the future. We're going to come out of this one way or another. And the general opinion in many of the so-called experts, and sometimes they are and sometimes not so much, but their estimates of what the future holds economically is they would suggest, and they do, that we're likely to take a greater hit now, but we're also likely to respond much more quickly and strongly when this particular period is over. And I agree. I mean, we're part of a global network of trade. It's very important. It's not just sea trade, but air trade as well, and information and so on. I mean, the work of becoming a hub here goes on, and it doesn't stop just because of COVID. It makes it more difficult. It slows things down. But we have so much going on that people aren't even aware of some of the things. And just recently, they've completed a 10,500 kilometer, it's about 6,300 miles, cable, super cable, you might say, from California down to Chile for the internet. And that's a pretty major effort right then and there. And Google has seen fit at its expense, because it's going to earn money from its use, building a 1,000 kilometer, about a 600-mile spur that will run off that to Panama. So we are becoming more and more the information hub of the Americas too. And for Latin America, probably going to be playing an ever greater role in distribution of goods. You know, it's the Amazon, or in our area here, Mercado Libre, or any of the many internet businesses that are now selling a lot over the internet. So we'll see. This just keeps on rolling, and that was nice to read. It's a big plus for us. And it got lost. I mean, I just happened to find it, stumble across it. It's a big deal. 10 years ago, it would have been a very big deal, this effort by Google. Now it's just one more thing. So we are going to be stronger base when we come out of this, but we've got to get through it, and we need to get through it and get our spirits up again and get moving. So that's where the emphasis will lie. Insofar as housing is concerned, for those who are concerned, obviously it's a little difficult now. But no, I've had the opportunity to talk to people who've been through the process. There are a lot of definitely very good deals. You do have to negotiate. Just sort of take everything you read on the internet, or you get email offers and what have you, with a big grain of salt. They're really hoping that you won't notice there is a buyer's market here. I see this stuff. Of course, I get a lot of it. People keep sending it to me in the hopes that I will be deeply influenced and let you know. Of course, that's not how it works here. But I go through and I take a look at stuff. And there seems to be recently two categories. And one category, actually not so much recently, but up until about a month or so ago. And these are like $1.5 million properties. And I just look at it and say, oh, are you trying to do the whole business for the entire real estate agency with one sale? I mean, come on. But more recently, I've seen they seem to have settled in the 300 to 350,000 range. Not all of them, and there's quite a variety. But I'm not seeing enough down in the 200s, and that does not make sense. So I mean, the prices being quoted are their wishful thinking. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to have to suck it up and take the fact that you're going to have to get here. And you're going to have to eyeball these things and talk to people and see what happens when you say, thank you very much, but this is more than we can afford, and you start to walk away and see what happens before you know where you stand with this whole affair. So it's as simple as that. And you can't get in right now easily. If you do, you find it's very difficult to see things. You better be looking in the city if that happens, because travel in the countryside becomes more difficult during this period, definitely. I tell you, if it's not one thing, it's another, isn't it? But this is the way the world is today. This is what we're going through now. We have another, 12 days or whatever to get through it. So in the meantime, for those of you who have had a wonderful Hanukkah, I trust, and I'm sure that was the case, that my Jewish friends here seem to have had a good time. And it's a Merry Christmas to all those of you who are looking forward to that here in a few days. And for everybody, a winter solstice, and above all, a new year. And if anybody deserves a new year, I think it's all of us deserve a new year, and a new and better year. And I have got to have faith that next year is going to be an uphill year instead of a downhill year. It's the only way to look at it. And I will be here along with you, and we'll see if we can't go up that hill together here in Panama, if that's your choice. So thanks for stopping by. Feel free to subscribe. Hit the little button down there and ring the bell so they send out the notification to you when a new video comes out. In the meantime, I just want you to know that we are definitely alive and kicking here in Panama, and the weather's beautiful. And now all we have to do is get all this other nonsense straightened out, and we're working on it. We're working on it. So have a good evening, good day, whatever it is that faces you. Enjoy it.